The last line of that gospel we just heard. Go and tell my brothers, I'm going ahead of them to Galilee, where I will meet them. Why would that have any significance? It would have no significance to me until a few years ago when I was on sabbatical and had this wonderful teacher of spirituality. And he had a knack for picking something out of the Gospels you'd never notice and building so much around it. And he called us to look at that passage. Go tell my brothers, I'll meet them in Galilee. He said, you see, for the disciples, the good news was not that Jesus resurrected from the tomb. The good news, although it didn't sound probably in their ears like that just yet, is when they heard that invitation, go to Galilee where I will meet them. Why is that important? These are the disciples who abandoned him. These are the disciples that ran away when he was crucified. These were the ones like Peter who said, oh, I'll never desert you, which of course Peter did. Jesus is saying to them, through the women, go there where I first called you, because I come to call you again. Now imagine how they felt when they heard the first part of that. Go to Galilee where he wants to meet you. Are we in trouble? We abandoned him. Why does he want to see us again? There was no mention of that. This professor said what Jesus was saying to them is, I want to meet you where I first called you, because the call has never been taken away. The call still exists. The call is still there that you would follow me and be my disciples. But we ran. The call is still there. The call is still there. The director and writer of that great film that came out centuries ago now called Jesus of Nazareth has a great play on what happened when the women went to see the disciples in the locked room in Jerusalem to tell them the message to go to Galilee. And what the director has is he has the women knocking on the door, the men sheepishly opening and saying, yeah, what do you want? What do you want? We're hiding. We don't want anybody to see us. And they said, we've seen Jesus. He's been raised up. And then they start talking about the men. Are we going to believe these women? What would they know about this? They didn't believe it when they told him. And in the back of the room, the director has Peter standing against the wall. And from the back of the room, he says, no, it's true. Peter, you're not going to believe these women, are you? What do they know about this? He said, it's true. Well, how do you know, Peter? Have you seen them? I know because I know I'm forgiven. Before he ever met the resurrected Jesus, this director, this writer, turns it a bit and says, Peter knew of the resurrection because he knew of the forgiveness he had already felt from Jesus. Very interesting. The call is that deep. Sometimes when I visit older people's homes and I bring them communion or go to anoint them, I kind of look around the room and see where are the pictures of this couple when they were younger. And somewhere there's always a couple pictures there, maybe of their wedding. And you go, wow, boy, were they handsome. Was she a good-looking woman then, you know? And now they're in their 80s and 90s. And yet that call, that invitation to each other to enter into those marriage vows was never relinquished, was never let go of in that instance. They're like that little man I met in the hospital I've told some of you about. He's in his 90s. His wife is practically in a coma. He goes every day to hold her hand. She can't talk to him. He can't talk to her. He sits there with his little suit and his vest, and he holds his hand and falls asleep. And I say to him as a young first ordained priest who thought he knew it all, I said to him, sir, you look very tired. He said, oh, yeah, I'm tired. I said, well, why don't you take a day off and rest up? He said, oh, I can't do that. No, because you see, till death do us part. So I crawled out under the door, realizing I had no idea what I was talking about. It took this man to say, we've never let go of that call to each other to marry. Never let go. And then somewhere in the homes, there might be a picture of maybe the husband, and now it would maybe be the wife, in their military day, when they had given their life over for the sake of the country and were willing to go off to skirmishes and wars of all kinds. And it always reminds me of what I learned from some teacher again years ago, who said, if you want to understand what happened to the first people who were ever baptized into the church, when they went down into the waters, you have to see what it is to go into the military. Because when you show up as a young recruit, you go through the recruit's office, you show up at the first day at whatever place they assigned you to. You're dressed in your cool, casual clothes that you got, and your hair is really long, and you go in and they say, take that off and get your hair cut. Then we're going to put a new uniform on you, and you're going to do boot camp. And if they succeed, if they get that uniform on and they become one with that, and they get all that training, and they go into war, and maybe some days they're in their dress, and some days they're in their fatigues, and some days they are in their camouflage clothing. And I know I can't speak for all of these dimensions of our military, but I've heard it said by a Marine. Imagine a grandson going up to his grandfather and saying, Grandpa, is it true that you were once a Marine? And he would answer, no, that's not true. I am a Marine. I'll die a Marine. I'll be buried a Marine. That call never let go. He was always proud to be a Marine. And those Marines have that wonderful kind of braggadocious atmosphere that I'm better than you are and I'm really strong. And they say it in their slogans, Semper Fi! Okay. There's that boldness in who they are. So when I thought about Easter Sunday, and I thought, what is the magic of this day? Why do we have people standing? Why are the pews packed? Why did I get up this morning and hear on the radio that Moscow's Catholic Cathedral is packed on this day? That there's churches down in Florida that are having 8 masses a day. That there's another place rents a tent to fit everybody in. That some parish down there is serving 35,000 people this morning. What is the magic of Easter Sunday? Why does everybody rush back? It's a great family day. You don't even have to bring a Christmas present, you know? And that's the magic. You just want to be together. I have to leave if I'm still awake by noon, and I have to go off and see my brother's family. That's what we do. But why is this Easter so important? And I've got my own theory on this. That somewhere in us, in that baptismal call, is this same Jesus saying, tell them to go back where I first called them and let them know I'm calling them again. Well, where would that be? Where were we to meet this Jesus? We come from different parishes, different countries, different states. I met somebody this morning from Alaska. You know? He's saying, I want to meet them again in the water. In that baptism that's not just for infants, it's for grown people. I want to meet them again in the power of that Spirit with which they were confirmed and made them witnesses to the world of my love for them. And I want to meet them above all at the table, that repeatable part of our baptism, where I once again can break bread and share the cup of my love with them and let them know I have never let go of calling them. Never let go. If they're here every Sunday, if they're here not every Sunday, if they're here sporadically, I'm still calling because I need all of them to witness, to love, to light, and not darkness in this world. You know how the early church and the Greek church still does this on Easter? Here's how they greet one another. One person will meet the other and say, "The Lord is risen." And the other one says, "He is risen indeed." So all of you over here, you're all one person. I want you to say the first part, okay? The Lord is risen.
He is risen indeed.
Okay, now let's put a little Semper Fi into that.
The Lord is risen. He is risen indeed.
Wonderful. That's who we are. We say that in so many ways without even knowing it. By how we live our lives, by how we raise families, by how we forgive, by how we help neighbors, by how we testify that we're not ashamed to be believers. So if somebody says to you, "You still go to church on Sunday?" And you can respond, "I certainly do, Semper Fi." Always faithful. You mean God or you? Yes. I saw you walking around the other day praying a rosary. Are you kidding me? Of course I do. I've said it every day. Semper Fi. Don't mess with me, man. That's the kind of faith we need, so that we're not embarrassed. And I was embarrassed as a young priest to pray with people in the hospital. I thought people would think I was odd. And I made a vow to myself. I said, the next time I'm called to the hospital, I don't care where it is or what the situation, I'm going to pray with that family out loud and in public. A priest, and I'm afraid to do this. So it came true. I walked in the emergency room. There stood a father and his three grown sons, their mother, wife, seriously ill in the emergency room. I thought, oh, great. There stands three guys all dressed in leather, beards, long hair, big rings, keychain, and I'm going to pray with this group. I walked up to the father, the husband, and I said, "Would you like to pray?" And he said, "I sure would." And in that emergency room, we stood and prayed. Let us never be ashamed that we have been called. We are his disciples. We are forgiven. The Lord is risen. Semper Fi.